Hello, I'm Charlotte Bennett. I'm the Joint Artistic Director at Payne's Plough. I first came to directing Reasons You Shouldn't Love Me by Amy Trigg when we found it through the Women's Prize for Playwriting. When I first read the play, I completely fell in love with it. It was funny, totally my sense of humour. It really moved me. It was political, it was important, it was personal. And it just sort of really stayed with me from the moment I read it. So when it went on to win the prize through the judges' meeting, I was really delighted. Amy and I met and got on like house on fire and just kind of felt like we were the right fit to work together on the play. We undertook a period of development and in truth, Amy's an amazing dramaturg of her own work, so she very much kind of led a lot of the changes in the script, I would say, or were very in tune with kind of instinctively thinking about where it needed to be drafted into its final stage. So we did lots of readings on Zoom. We actually only met in person for the first time on the first day of rehearsals, which was a bit mad because it was all lockdown time. And we just went on this kind of really brilliant creative journey of bringing that script into kind of its final draft, which spanned pre-rehearsals and then in the rehearsal room as well. There were changes and stuff being, often a lot of cutting and refining to really get the story to where we wanted it to be. The way that Amy and I really brought that story to life was really collaborative. I mean, the thing to kind of bear in mind is this is a story inspired by Amy's own experiences. She is also performing in the play and a writer in the play. So a kind of big reason why I ended up directing the piece as well is that I have directed a lot of work where the writer is a performer and is kind of performing autobiographical or semi-autobiographical stories. So it's a kind of territory that I knew quite well. And of course it changes with each individual, but what felt really important was to set some boundaries for Amy in terms of being a writer in the room, being a performer in the room, and kind of how she felt ownership of that production and of the collaboration and the direction of the piece. The script arrived and there was no kind of sense of what the set should be from the writer. And Jean Chan, who's an amazing designer, and I and Amy all kind of were reading through the play and going, what is kind of at the heart of it? And there's a moment quite early on in the script where Juno talks about having her first MRI scan when she's 6 and how she was scared of the big noises that the machine would make, obviously being a young child, and how her parents made a homemade DIY MRI scanner out of a cardboard box and kind of sellotaped bits of foil on it. And then they would put her in it and stand outside and make noises that would emulate the MRI experience so that she could get used to it. And it was an image that really stayed with Jean and I when we read it. We felt like it was a really beautiful moment of her parents really caring for her in that moment and also acknowledging, and it was playful, which is what the play is, and it was also kind of acknowledging the situation that Juno finds herself in as a young child with spina bifida. And so we kind of ran with that idea and we went, what would happen if the whole set was this cardboard box MRI scanner? And what we found out later as well is that story is a true story from Amy's life and that her parents did actually make this homemade MRI. So what was even more beautiful was that later on when we kind of developed the set design and her parents came to see it, I thought, wow, this thing you made when your daughter was 6, you're now watching it up on a stage become a whole stage design for a show, which was kind of mad and cool. Juno speaks really honestly about her experience as a disabled woman growing up and how that's then impacted her life into adulthood. And I think that it will educate and inspire audiences that come and meet her.